everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I am going to show you how to easily make a wrap dress, and I am not going to be using any sewing pattern. I am pretty much going to replicate a wrap dress that I already owned, and I'm just going to trace it out as my pattern, although I'm going to tweak a little bit of the design detail on the sleeves, but pretty much the rest are going to be replicated. So this is the dress I am talking about. I'm pretty much going to trace out the bodice part as you can see here, and then I'm going to add seam allowances, and I will repeat the same steps for the back bodice. I'm just going to fold it in half and then trace around and add my seam allowances. If you are curious where I got the wrap dress, I actually bought it when I went to the Philippines 3 years ago, and the brand was Plains and Prints, and they are my favorite Philippine brand of clothing. They are very well made, and yeah, it lasts forever. I have few dresses from them from way back like 10 years ago, and they are still pretty much intact, and yeah, I just love the quality. So whenever I go to the Philippines, I make sure I pick up one dress for like a remembrance or like a souvenir from that trip. So now I am tracing out the bodice, the back bodice. So I fold it in half, and then I am going to trace it out, and then I am going to add darts at the back. So this sewing project is pretty much beginner friendly because we are not creating any sewing patterns, simply replicating a dress, and there is no measuring involved. And yeah, it's so easy. I had made so many dresses when I was a beginner this way. I then repeated the same steps for the skirt. So as you can see here, I am just tracing the front skirt, and I will do the same for the back. I will fold it in half and trace along, and I added 1/2 inch seam allowances for all the pattern pieces. This tutorial is actually a requested video. One of my viewer requested that I should create a wrap dress for beginner, and when I think of beginner, you are intimidated measuring and creating your own patterns. So I decided, okay, this is a perfect idea for this. We're just going to trace out a wrap dress that is already done, and there is no fancy finishing on the hemlines, you guys. This is super easy. So now I'm going to cut out the pieces. So the first one is placed on fold, and that's going to be for the back, and then the second one is the front panel. So we will have 2 pieces for the front because you want it to overlap. Back bodice is placed on fold, so we will have 1 piece. Notice I angled the front bodice because when I cut it, I actually don't want it to stretch. I don't want it to be on a bias cut. So I angled it this way, so I followed the grain of the fabric, so it doesn't stretch out on the neckline, because if I just place it straight, the angle is going to end up on a bias cut, and we don't want that because it will stretch out, and I want this to be super easy. That's why I'm trying to stay away from the bias on the neckline. Wait, if you notice the front bodice, I added 2 inches on the shoulders because I want to have gathers on the shoulder. I adjusted the back neck by about 1/2 inch down. These are the pattern pieces for the skirts. You will also need 2 long strips of fabric. One is 34 inches and one is 54 inches, and that is going to be for the belt that wraps around your waistline. I repeated the same for the lining pieces, so pretty much what I did for the main fabric is going to be repeated for the lining fabric, just because the fabric is just a little sheer, so I just want to have like extra coverage. After all the pieces are cut out, it's time to get to sewing. So I did all the cutting and pattern replicating yesterday, and now is going to be sewing day. I have to kind of plan my sewing time because we started homeschool already. We are going to work on the belt first. So it's super easy. You are just going to fold it in half. Right sides of the fabrics are facing, and you are going to sew along the edge, but leave one edge open so you can turn the belt right side out. So after that's done, it's time to sew the lining on each pieces. So I pin it all the way around, and I'm just going to base stitch it all the way around, so the fabric is going to be one instead of dealing with two pieces of fabrics. And I repeated the same for the skirt. And they should look like this. So far, I'm really pleased with this. It makes the fabric kind of stable. Now it's time to work on the belt, so I'm just going to be using my serger for this. And like I said earlier, I'm going to sew on the wrong side of the fabric and then turn it right side out. I also press it to make it easier to work with, and it also gives you a professional finish. Then I'm going to top stitch it just to make it look super pretty and well made. Now it's time to work on the bodice, so I am going to close the darts. I actually adjusted the darts. Instead of 1 inch, I decided to do 2 inches. And yeah, I'm actually really pleased with that. So I do have like a size variation. So if someone asks me to make them a wrap dress, I already have the pattern pieces. I also base stitched the shoulders so I can gather it, as you can see here. So you just want to gather it to match the shoulders of the back pattern. As you can see here, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to pin it and sew along the shoulders. This is when I said I trimmed down the shoulder just a bit. As you can see, it's just a little too high, so I adjusted it by about 1/2 inch down. And then I am going to sew the side seam, and I will be leaving about 2 inches on this side so I can have like a gap so we can pull the belt through. Now it's time to work on the skirt, and it is pretty straightforward. I match the side seams of the fabrics, and I'm going to stitch along the edge. And because I adjusted the bodice earlier, now I'm going to have to adjust the skirt a little bit. It's very easy to adjust it. Basically, you are just going to match the waistline together, and you just want to make sure that the seams are lining up properly. But basically, that's how you take in a skirt. Now I match the bodice and the skirt waist together. Right sides of the fabrics are facing, and make sure that the seams are open. And I'm just going to stitch along following my 1/2 inch seam allowance. After that, I serge the neckline, and it should look like this. So I'm just going to fold it in and top stitch it. So that is so easy, you guys. You don't need to use any bias tape. The reason why I got away with it is because I placed the neckline on an angle, so the neckline doesn't have a bias stretch. Make sure you do that when you place your fabric, that it is against the stretch. Okay, you don't want to follow the stretch because that will cause gaping on the neckline. I top stitched the ties on the waistline of the bodice. Now I am going to seam rip this side here so the long tie can go through this and wrap around your waistline. So as you can see, I'm carefully seam ripping it, and I'm going to stitch around it to reinforce that area. Now it's time to work on the sleeves. So I finished the hemlines by doing a double roll. I use a double roll hem foot for this, but if you don't have that, just double fold it and sew it all the way around. And now it's time to place it inside the armhole. I like to always match the seams first and then work my way out, and the sleeves are going to have a little bit of gathers. I can easily fit it in the armhole, so I'm just going to sew it all the way around. I also sheared the hemline of the sleeve by about 1/2 inch away from the hemline, and it gives me that little ruffle on the hem. It's so cute. You can stitch a snap button right here to prevent the neckline from opening. The shoulder gathering right here, I think it turned out so nice. And this is what the reinforced hole will look like. This is like for the belt, obviously. finished the hemline and the dress is complete. I absolutely love how it turned out. It is so cute and you will not believe that it was from a shower curtain and no pattern required. Basically, we just trace a wrap dress. But even though we trace the pattern pieces for this dress, we managed to make it look original still because we changed the sleeves details or design, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So if you enjoy this tutorial and if you learned something new today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and for the viewer who requested this video, hey, you got what you wanted, so be sure to like this video and share if you could. That will help my channel to grow. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!